Om Jnana Tremendasya Jnanagana Salakaya Chakṣuṣamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitayena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shritam Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnava Samcha Sri Rupa Sarjata Sahagana Raghunatha Vitantam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saita Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devan Sri Radha Krishna Parasahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhavitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tata Kanchana Goranga Radha Vrindamani Visvare Vishabhanu Sutadevi Panamami Haripriye Vanchaka Puturubhyasya Kripasya Vacha Patitana Pavanuvibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Om Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prima Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Guraju Se Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadahara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Ananda Lila Maya Vigraya Emabid Tavis Sundaraya Tasma Maha Premarsha Padaya Chitaya Chandaya Nama Namaste Chitaya Chandaya Nama. So I thank everyone for being here online on the Zoom this evening for the Bhagavad Gita class from ISKCON Vrindavan. And also I welcome everyone, as also those who are on Facebook. So we are speaking from the Purushottam Yoga section of the Bhagavad Gita. Since this is a Purushottam Mass, so it's appropriate month to speak from the chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll be reading from chapter 15, text number 10. So Lord Krishna continue enlightening Arjuna, especially about the situation of the living entities. This is a very, very important chapter because in this particular chapter, Lord Krishna is really emphasizing the eternality of the soul and how there's a complete difference between the soul who was originally of spiritual energy, but in this material world, have been overcome by the material energy. Having been overcome by material energy, loses its original nature. So you have to struggle with material energy, Prakriti Kashana. So this is text number 10. I just read it. I read the translation and purports, and I give some discussion on it. Utkrāmantaṁ sthitaṁ vāpi bhuñjānaṁ guṇānvitam vimūḍhā nānupaśyanti paśyanti jñāna-cakṣuṣaḥ. So the word for word meaning, utkrāmantaṁ, quitting the body, sthitaṁ, situated the, where is it? This is not, let's see. Situated in the body, vāpi, either bhuñjānaṁ, enjoying, let's shift this one, va or guṇānvitam, under the spell of the modes of material nature, vimūḍhā, foolish persons, never, nānupaśyanti, can see, paśyanti, can see, jñāna-cakṣuṣaḥ, those who have the eyes of knowledge. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, S. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit its body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. The word jñāna-cakṣuṣaḥ is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves its present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. This requires a great amount of knowledge, understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures, heard from a bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances, is living under certain circumstances, and he is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. Persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire lose all power to understand their change of body and their stay in a particular body. They cannot comprehend it. Those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body and enjoying in different ways. A person in such knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in this material world. Or in this material existence. Therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to the people in general, for their conditional life is very much troublesome. They should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world. So the Lord is talking about the Lord is making a difference in terms of the vision of someone who's in knowledge and someone who is simply full, vimūḍhā. So in this text, the vimūḍhā, a foolish person, their nature is vividly expressed. But the foolish person cannot understand in terms of the movement of the living entity in the material world. The Lord has said that the jñāna-cakṣuṣaḥ, how the living entity is sitting on the chariot and has been sitting on the chariot and then being carried by the material energy. So in the past 3 verses, the Lord said, telling Arjuna that how the living entity is moved from one body to another body. So the Lord is mentioning in the text number 8. So the Lord says, Sariran yad avapnoti, yad chapi utkrāmantaṁ, great trani samyati, vayu gandham ivasayat. So how they said the living entity in the material world carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another body, just as the hair carries aroma. Thus, it takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So which means this goes on life after life. So the living entity is, he has to go from one type of materialistic existence to another type of materialistic existence. So the example has been given that just like the hair, the wind will carries aroma from a flower. And then we travel with it so that anybody can smell the aroma from a particular distance. But even though the wind carries the aroma from the flower, it does not carry the flower with it. The flower itself stays the way it is. So this comparison is giving how the living entity basically is taken from one body and placed into another body. So the living entity is taken by the mind. So the mind, which has got different impressions, which has been accumulated over the course of life, and these impressions are basically the karma which the living entity has accumulated. So that impression will determine what the next body of the living entity will be. So basically, as Papa was mentioning in the previous purport, that if someone lived the life of a cat or the life of a dog, so ultimately the person will be, in the next life, the person will take such body, either as a cat or as a dog. Or sometimes, just like it's very, very common in the West, for people to go naked sometime on the street. Like people like to go naked. So such persons, because this is their desire, this is what they've cultivated. So in their next life, they'll be given chance to become trees in their next life. So they'll be given chance to become trees, because the tree is always naked, and they have to be in that form of a tree for only God knows how long. Because trees can stay for a long period of time, many, many, many years. There's just like I know like places like California, there are some in the forest of California, Northern California, there are some trees there that are said to be more than thousands, that are thousands of years old. The vine trees especially, very tall trees. And many of them are thousands of years old. And they be like that until they are cut down, or there's forest fire, which is very, very, very common now in California. Now they've been having a lot of severe fire. So when the fire comes, then the tree can burn down. Then the soul can go to the next life. So in this way, how one cultivates one's existence will basically determine one's next destination. And of course, as the Lord said that kata hamiti vimūḍhā kata is a vimūḍhātma. The Lord said ahankara vimūḍhātma, that due to false ego, this false ego is it makes one lose one's original nature, and this false ego enables one to identify with material nature, with material energy, where one thinks oneself to be this material body. So the Lord said, vimūḍhātma, the foolish person, so falsely think himself to be everything, to be the doer, to be the Lord of all he can serve. Because the person totally become ignorant of his actual existence, of his actual nature. So because of this false nature, or false identification, so the living entity basically have to struggle with material energy. The Lord said, prakriti sthane kāśyate. The living entity, how he struggle with material energy, one life after the other, one life after the other. And then on this point also, in the canto, in the Bhagavatam also, canto 3, Lord Kapila was instructing his mother. This is in the canto number 3, chapter 143. So Lord Kapila says, Dehena jiva bhutena, loka lokam anuprajan, bhuñjānaṁ eva kamani, karotye aviratam puman. So the Lord is talking about the movement of the living entity in the material nature. So Lord Kapila says, due to his particular type of body, the materialistic living entity wanders from one planet to another planet, following his particular his material desires, following fruitive activities. So in this way, he involves himself in fruitive activities and enjoys the result incessantly. And of course, the result doesn't always be palatable. Sometimes the result may be good, sometimes the result may be bad. And as Ishwara Prabhu pointed out in the purport here, he said, when the living entities is encased in the material body, he is called Jiva Bhuta. And when he's free from the material body, he is called Brahma Bhuta. So by changing his material body, birth after birth, it travels not only in the different spaces of life, but also from one planet to another planet. So this is the moment. This traveling of the living entity will continue, non-stop until it comes to a time when the living entities become fortunate to meet a pure devotee of Krishna. It also mentioned here in the following verses also, Jivui Ashwano Godeho, Utendriya Malomaya, Taniro Dosya Maranam, Avibhavastu Sambhavaha. So like Kapil said, in this way, the living entity gets a suitable body with a material mind and senses, according to his fruitive activities. When the reaction of his particular activity comes to an end, that end is called death. And when a particular type of reaction begins, that beginning is called birth. So basically, the mind, it's what by which all the life impression are stored. This is what carries the living entity from one body into another body. So Prabhupada said, from time immemorial, the living entity travels in different spaces of life and the different planets almost perpetually, non-stop, since time immemorial. So this process is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmanya Savabhutani Yantrudani Maya. Yeah. Under the spell of Maya, everyone is wandering throughout the universe on the carriage of the body offered by the material energy. So materialistic life involves a series of actions and reactions. It is a long film, full of actions and reactions, and one lifespan is just a flash in such a reactionary show. Then he said, Prabhupada said, when a child is born, it is to be understood that his particular type of body is the beginning of another set of activities. And when an old man dies, it is to be understood that one set of reactionary activities is finished. So this go on and on. And the Lord Kapila then said, so this is the, like in the Gita also, in the text number 9, whereby the Lord says, Sariran, how the living entity acquires the particular senses. It says that jñāna-cakṣuṣaḥ cha, rasana granam evacha, adhisthaya manasyayam, visayan upasevate. That the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. It thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects because the living entity need the material senses to, in order to carry out the reactions of materialistic life. Because so whatever the mind has gathered from the previous life, so the certain certain senses, especially the walking senses and the but the subtle senses, the gross senses, they all acquire, by which the living entity will be able to fulfill the desires of what has been gathered from the previous lives. So following this line of thought also in the Bhagavatam, so Lord Kapila says, Dravyo palabde stanashya, Dravyo kshayo gyata yada, tat panchartan aham manand, utpati dravya darshanam, yata krishna dravya yava darshana yogyata yada, tadaiva chakṣuṣo drashtu, drashtyo yogyatana yoho. So Lord Kapila said, when the eyes lose their power to see color or form due to a morbid affliction of the optic nerve, the sense of sight becomes deadened. The living entity, who is the seer of both the eyes and the sight, loses its power of vision. In the same way, when the physical body, the place where perception of object occurs, is rendered incapable of perceiving, that is known as death. And when one begins to view the physical body as one's very self, that is called birth. So this is basically the science of life. It has in the beginning of the Gita where Lord Krishna told Arjuna that he should understand the difference between the body and the soul, and that he should not lament for the body. That the body, after all, is just like a dress that one can take on, one can put on, or one can put off at any time. But the soul proper is always existing. So in the text that we are reading today, so the Lord is now telling Arjuna that yes, this understanding is there of how the soul, how the living entities quit his body and then stay for some time, then acquires another body, stay for some time, and then again, he has to keep on moving on. He has to go on and on. You know? Because the living entities sometimes, or actually oftentimes, they are described to be eternally in bondage in the material world. It's called nitya bada. Nitya bada means eternally conditioned. Now, when we say the living entity is eternally conditioned, does that mean that that eternality, does that mean that the living entity has no existence? That is always there in a perpetual bondage in the material world? Now, actually, the living entity actually is part of the lost energy. However, having turned the faces away from Krishna Bhayamukha, then the living entity becomes a resident of the material world. Because of turning the faces away from Krishna, so the living entity become under the domain of Maya. It's called Maya Dish. Because there is no time, there is no period when one can actually ascertain the time when the living entity has been in this material world. So it's called eternally conditioned, because the period is so long, because the living entity has been gone from not just from one body to another body, also from different planets, from different universes. Sometimes the living entity is maybe a human being, or sometimes an animal, sometimes an aquatics, because there are 8.4 million species of life, which the living entities have to travel through. And sometimes, maybe when it's a human being and performs so many pious activities, the living entity may become a demigod. So it may become a demigod, even sometimes it may become Lord Brahma. It may become Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma lives for trillions and trillions of years, which Lord Brahma lives. And of course, if a living entity become Lord Brahma, it may get chance, because being a Lord Brahma is the topmost attainment of the spirit soul. Normally, when a jiva becomes Brahma, it's generally a devotee, by which at the end of the life, as a Brahma, it goes back to the spiritual world. But sometimes, not all Brahma becomes, may necessarily be, pure devotees. Just like when you read the Briha Bhagavatamrita of Srila Sanatana Goswami. So, sometimes the living, even though being in the form of Brahma, sometimes may commit some mistakes, by which maybe even be forced to leave the Brahma Loka, by which we create absence of the post of Brahma, by which another person may have to be appointed to be Brahma. So which means it's not that every situation, every Brahma is a pure devotee. But generally, Brahma is a pure devotee, generally, just like in our current situation, our current Brahma, who is actually the head of our Sampradaya, because we are Brahma, Madhya Gaudiya Sampradaya. So Brahmaji is the head of our Sampradaya. So he's a pure devotee. So, but not every Brahma is in that circumstance. So the Lord is telling Arjuna that the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit its body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature, the modes of material nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. So, which means we have two types of person. We have a vimūḍhā, a foolish person, and then we also have someone who is a jnāni. jñāna-cakṣuṣaḥ, someone who can see, who can really see, someone whose eyes have opened. Even though in this everybody think that they can, everybody have so much pride in their so-called seeing ability. But actually, in the material world, one is actually blind in the material world because one is blind to one's real identity. So therefore, even though one may have so-called big eyes, it's just like an owl, is a owl, is a bird, whereby no matter how bright the sun is, the owl cannot see anything. No matter how bright the sun is, it can only see at nighttime, cannot see in the daytime. So similarly also, the foolish materialistic person who have no spiritual knowledge is perpetually blind. In the Gita, location says, "Yānisha bhutana, Jagrati." The Lord said that what is night for the spiritualist? No, what is day for the spiritualist, night for those who are ignorant of this college, just some simple translation. So here, the Lord is saying that the foolish person cannot understand the movement of the living entity. Now, according to because this is all because of the kind of consciousness that the person has. Because due to undeveloped consciousness, consciousness not having awakened to spiritual reality, so the living entity cannot understand. This is how the person is, how the soul is going from one body to another body. The living entity cannot understand, because everybody is thinking themselves to be this material body. When you have someone, who are you? You say, this is me, I am this, I am this. Even though sometimes if you try to be a little bit analogical with them, that if you say you are what you are, but sometimes, a person that you call your loving one, and the person is dead and lying on the ground, and you start crying that, oh, this person has gone, but the same body is lying on the ground, the same person that you are used to have relationship with, that used to have, conversation with, that used to move around, the same person, but the same person is lying on the ground. So who has gone? So which means you never really see the person before. Because the same person, the same body you used to see before, the same body is there on the ground, and the same body is about to be prepared for either burial or for cremation or whatever. So the same body is there. So what have you seen? So which means you've never seen the person before. But still, people will never rise up to the spiritual understanding, to try to understand this analysis. Because the Lord says here, because people are foolish, people are fools, So in this material world, there are 5 types of consciousness. 5 types of consciousness are there. It's anomoi, there's anomoi, there's manamoi, there's pranamoi, there's genemoi, and there's anonymoi. So 5 types of consciousness by which every living entity is possessed, but how living entities can be categorized according to their particular consciousness. So an anomoi person is a person who is only concerned with food, nothing else, no other than just food, just existing only, just only existing, not even thinking. We'll do whatever it takes just to survive. That's called anomoi person. Just like there's one Indian philosopher, Chavakamani. This Chavakamani will say that there's nothing to life. There's no next life, not existent. Just you have only one life to live. So therefore, just beg, borrow, or steal. Somehow or other, be alive, maintain yourself. Because once you die, everything is finished. So this is the situation. And this is an animal person, have no sense of reality. Just the consciousness is simply food. Anna means food. Eating. That's all. That's no other consciousness. And then when the person becomes a little bit more developed, he comes to the stage of monomoi. Monomoi, this is when the person starts thinking, become a little bit awareness, become like self-aware, can recognize himself, can also recognize others also. This is monomoi, whereby the stage of mana actually means mind. So therefore, the person can start thinking of, okay, maybe something's wrong or something is bad. At that stage, that's basically is a thinking stage. This is manam. Still, of course, still within the same category of the vimūḍhā, the foolish person. But if vimūḍhā is a little bit, who's in a manamoi is a little bit, aware. And then when the person becomes a little bit more developing consciousness, it's so-called pranamoi. So prana means life. Prana means in existence. So which means the person is no longer concerned with just food, just eating food. Now he's become aware, the consciousness is more aware of pranamoi, whereby it's it's basically a materialistic existence, whereby one understands the existence of people in terms of life, making more life more, whatever situation may be more better for everyone. So just like we have, especially the politicians, people become politicians so that they can. So okay, they want to make life better for other people. So people become more like what we call like a civilized materialist. So that's the stage of pranamoi. Of course, that stage is still foolish stage, because what one does not know anything about spiritual reality. It's all about this life, how this life can be better. Let's make this life better for everyone, for ourselves, and for them. It's like, as they say, live and let live. That kind of thinking. So that is a pranamoi. Now, when one starts becoming disgusted with this world, when one starts becoming disgusted with life, having tasted all kinds of happiness, and then having start going through all kinds of distress, frustration, which, because the material world is always very unpleasant, and everyone knows that material world is so unpleasant. So they start making an inquiry that who am I? What is this world? Why everything is so imbalanced? Why so much problems of life? Why so much problems? Maybe there's something beyond. Maybe there's something beyond this world. So this is the stage of, we call it jñāna-moi, the stage of trying to understand, what is this world? What is this world is? This is actually the time when one begins to search for spiritual life. In the Vedic scriptures, it says the asatoma jyoti gamaya, that stop darkness, come to light. That this material world is a place of darkness. Now come to light. Come to light. This is the Vedic effort. That's asatoma jyoti gamaya. That yes, if you want to, in the first verse of Vedanta Sutra is what is the first verse? Trying to make an inquiry into spiritual nature. I kind of forgot a little bit. Anyway, I'm a little bit forgetful. So this is the when one start to actually begin to understand, begin to make a deep inquiry into oneself, into why one is here, why we're so much trouble, why we're so much, and they want to find out how to really, end this, how to really end this one's materialistic existence. And there's only such persons who actually deserve to really be addressing about putting an end to the materialistic existence. So this is jñānamoy. And then the last one is called anandamoy. And anandamoy, which means the place of blissfulness, the place, the stage of happiness, the consciousness of complete blissfulness by which the living entity has acquired. And this is only possible only when the living entity understands himself, understands that yes, it's a servant of Krishna, it's a part and parcel of Krishna, and it's an eternal servant of God. And then he enters into devotional service to Krishna. So like Mahaprabhu, when he was teaching, the Rupa Goswami, whereby he was saying that Brahmanya, Brahmata Kona Bhogyavan Jiv, Guru Krishna Prasade Poi Bhakti Lata Bish. That when the living entity has traveled through so many universes, so many planets, through so many different universes, stages of life and all that. So when the living entity becomes fortunate, Bhogyava means to be fortunate. When it attain fortune, become fortunate, then it meets a pure devotee of Krishna. It meets a pure devotee of Krishna, a Sadguru. Meeting a pure devotee of Krishna, then that person, Guru Krishna Prasade, meeting that person who is a pure devotee of Krishna, a Guru, that person won't become, by submitting to that person, to that pure devotee of Krishna, then that person initiates one into spiritual life, into Krishna Bhakti. Ishwara Prabhu's teaching, he said, Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das. That the living entity is eternally servant of God, is eternally part and parcel of God, and is eternally servant of Krishna. That's the real nature of the living entity. So it's only a guru, a pure devotee guru, who will give on such knowledge. And by following the pure devotee guru, his instructions, then one can become situated in one's original nature, which is a spiritual being who is a part of Krishna and who is eternal servant of Krishna. And by engaging in bhakti under the direction of a pure devotee guru, one attains bliss. This is anandamoy. One becomes, that's a complete blissfulness. Complete blissfulness. So that is attainable. So this is the situation. This is what's been taught here. That yes, paśyanti, jñāna-cakṣuṣaḥ, the person whose eyes has been trained in knowledge can see the reality of this materialistic existence. And such person do not waste his time, and he simply engage himself, he submit himself to a pure devotee of Krishna, and engage himself into the devotional service of Krishna. And of course, another aspect, we have the Lord mentioned that Pandita Samadashina, that Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmani Gabyasini, Sunichava, Sapakecha, Pandita Samadashina, that the living entity, the soul, can see that Pandit means a learned person, can see that in all kind of body, it can be a Brahmana, can be a dog eater. In all kinds of body, it can be a Sudra. But in all bodies, the soul, the same jiva is situated. The jiva is the spirit soul is situated in all bodies. So therefore, Pandita Samadashina, he can see because he has got perfect vision. He has got spiritual vision. So he sees the equality of all beings. Such a person does not discriminate because you see, everyone is equal. Why? Because everyone is spiritual energy, everyone is spirit soul, and the soul by nature is part of Krishna, and by nature the soul is Ananda Maya yourself. Is always eternally blissful. So that's the nature of the soul. It's always eternally blissful. Unfortunately, being in the material world and having been covered by the material energy, that blissfulness it's covered. Because the living entity become identified with the material energy. So therefore, by coming to this spiritual reality of understanding oneself, of knowing that yes, one is a spiritual being, spirit soul, and a servant of Krishna, then all that we know about, then one can be situated in the spiritual bliss, which is Anandamaya. So I'm going to stop here. If there's any question or comments, you can please make. Hare Krishna. Thank everyone for listening.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, anybody has some questions? I've allowed you to unmute. You can ask your questions.
Or comments, whatever.
Or any comments?
Yeah. So I guess since there's no question or comments,
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
okay, we can end here. So thank you everyone for listening. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.